So Mortal Kombat X or 10. Now I'm not actually gonna take the time to infuse this video with footage of the actual trailer because honestly, there's not much to really show in the trailer. It's only like a minute long, like a minute and 7 seconds or something, and there's not much new in it that's really worth taking the time to edit and put all that stuff in. So I'm really just gonna talk about it, and of course I'll put the link below if you haven't seen it yet. So you can just go to the link below to actually watch the trailer. But it's the first trailer ever, so it's only a minute long. There's not much new to it that we haven't seen from the Mortal Kombat franchise. It's not like the Mortal Kombat 9 one, which I don't remember what that one was like specifically, but they added a lot of different stuff and things were new in that. And this is the second time around using the MK9 type of stuff. But there are a few cool new things that we get to see. Of course, it starts off with the classic fight, Sub-Zero versus Scorpion, which I'm sure a lot of you might agree with this. I hate seeing Sub-Zero die every single time, but I won't even deal with that. Like, I was just thinking about it before I started. I won't even bother going into that because I'm just going to be dealing with it for the rest of my life because Sub-Zero just dies in these things. I mean, it's not like he's really the bad guy. They both got betrayed and, all the crap here and there. Kind of betrayed, not really betrayed. And all types of stuff going on. Depending, I guess it really depends if you look at the games, which I would count as the actual lore, or the, I guess, web series where it's slightly different, where they were both tricked, but in the actual thing, like Sub-Zero was just, he's actually just flat out the bad guy, which also kind of sucks because he's my favorite. But anyway, aside from that, it's the typical fight. First thing to notice, of course, if you played the Mortal Kombat 9 game, and if you haven't, I shouldn't have to say this, but there will be spoilers for that story because most of this is really going to be what I expect from the game, not what we even really got to see. But coming from that game, they changed a lot of the story. A lot of the characters got switched around. They were in different places, and one of the big things was Smoke stays human because he isn't captured and turned into the robot. Instead, Sub-Zero's the robot. So in this, it's a human Sub-Zero, and odds are, instead of it being the Sub-Zero from the other games who is the second who has the scar on his eye, it's that Sub-Zero now, and they just did it where he has a different costume. So it was interesting to see that because, of course, when it was Sub-Zero, I just thought maybe they changed his robot look so that he does look more human initially, because I thought that way they could still keep it as Cyborg Sub-Zero, but he would at least look human, so that way it would be a good balance where it's like we keep the storyline that we had going, but we make him look more human for people that prefer that look compared to him basically having dreadlocks like the Cyber Sub-Zero. But it is the new Sub-Zero, which I would assume has to be like another Sub-Zero, because the one who got turned into the cyborg was the younger brother of the first Sub-Zero. So this would have to be a third Sub-Zero. And I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. They've changed the story now completely, so it can be a third one. Why not? They can make it whatever they want. But it's Sub-Zero versus Scorpion. They have their fight. It's in a forest. Now, there's not much that we get out of this trailer. Like I said, it's stuff we've seen. They're bringing back the X-rays. I don't know if they're specifically bringing back weapons. I don't think they're going to do what they did in the old games where it was like the fighting styles, but they have the weapons back because they had it where in one scene Sub-Zero runs towards Scorpion and he basically picks up his ice sword out of the ground to attack him. So that was kind of cool. They might have it where you can, I don't know, maybe deflect weapons out of your enemy's hand or whatever if they're about to use them, and they like fly off and then land in the ground, and the character has to get near it and they can pick it up again, which I think they did for Kung Lao in one of the games. I think it was one of the really early games they did that, but I could be completely wrong. But that'll be interesting to see. It would sort of change the dynamic if you could knock your enemy's weapon out of their hand, but it's still in play in the game if they find their way to it again. That would be pretty cool to see. But they're bringing back the X-rays. They're bringing back the weapons, at least as far as the moves. They have the typical moves. They actually showed off pretty much all of Scorpion and Sub-Zero's basic moves. They showed Sub-Zero doing the slide. They showed him doing his freeze. They showed Scorpion doing the uppercut the flaming uppercut with his hand and with his feet. The backwards teleport, and of course his get over here spear attack at the end. But it was really cool to see that, and the way they did it, it looked exactly like it was the actual game. Like they just at least in one part of it where it was like the side view and it wasn't the really cinematic portion, it looked exactly like Mortal Kombat 9, but like slightly better. I don't think this was just completely CG. I think it was the in-game engine. I think honestly that's what the game will look like. I read some comments when I was watching it, and people said they hate how it's all CG and stuff. And I was like, when I read that, I thought it doesn't look CG to me at all. It just looks like that's what the game could look like. It's not incredibly fancy to me, except for when they change the view and they do like moves that the characters might not actually do in the game while we're playing, at least. And they sort of change the angles and do like the really close up spots, so they kind of have to make it CG because it wouldn't be as detailed. It's actually fairly detailed, so it might be, especially with it being the new generation, I have to assume. But for the most part, it looked exactly like the last Mortal Kombat game. That just had better graphics because it would be whatever new console it was on. So I don't think it was CG. I think that's what the game will actually look like. I think there are a couple of little bits and pieces here and there that won't look like that as far as the resolution and all that. But for the most part, it looked exactly like I think the game is going to look, because it wasn't super fancy and all CG and stuff. And even with Mortal Kombat 9, if I'm remembering correctly, most of, like, pretty much every cutscene or all the cutscenes were used with the in-game engine. They may have touched them up a little bit to change their faces and stuff slightly because they're at different angles, so they have to make it look different, and plus it's close up, so it's a little bit more textured. But for the most part, everything looks exactly the same, whether you're in-game or out of it. It all pretty much looks the same. So I think that's how the game will actually look. And the area where they actually fight in, it's a random forest. It'll most likely end up being a level in the game. And there was nothing too specific about it except for one scene. And it's like a stone, it looked like kind of like part of the stone dragon, and I just assumed it was the dragon because I instantly went to like Liu Kang being in his dragon form. So I think that random forest that we actually got to see in this trailer will actually be a level in the game, and hopefully we'll get some of the old levels back too. Like we might get the classic forest level with the trees that'll eat you. I don't know the actual name of that forest, but we'll probably get that just because it is an incredibly classic level from the franchise. And we might get some levels. It would be interesting to see, considering the story from Mortal Kombat 9 basically ends at Mortal Kombat 3, and this one picks up where 4 would take place, and they brought in Shinnok. So we might get some levels basically from Mortal Kombat 4, but they'll be redone and they'll look obviously way better than they did when that game like came out on PlayStation. But it would be cool to see if they bring some of those levels back and they change up how they work and stuff like that. That would be really interesting to see. And I feel like they're gonna do that because that's what they did in the last game. They brought back old levels, and not just, oh, here's a classic level like the Forest, which they have in a lot of the games, but they brought back those levels because that's where the characters really were in those games. And they'll probably do that where Shinnok has his facility. All I can remember really is there was one area where it's raining on top. There's a sort of dojo area, and then there's one area that's like a facility, and it has fans all over the place. Those are really the only 3 levels I remember from MK4. So we might get some of those levels back, but obviously stepped up in every single way possible. So that'll be cool if we get that, and if not, I'm sure they'll make whole new levels that we've never had the chance to see, and that'll be really cool too. But one of the big things that actually does involve gameplay that's actually brand new to Mortal Kombat is something that NetherRealm is bringing over from Injustice: Gods Among Us, and that is using the environment as a weapon. And in this trailer, Sub-Zero basically he breaks a branch off, he freezes it, and he uses that to attack Scorpion. And it'll be cool to see how they incorporate that in all the different levels that they have in this game, especially with all the different characters, because just like in Injustice: Gods Among Us, some characters would probably break an item off and use it because they're much stronger. Like Goro would be the strongest character, or at least one of them, and he would be one of the characters who could pick up an item and use it to attack you, and then other smaller characters would jump off of the item. And as far as the forest level goes, there might be characters who use the tree and they run up the tree and jump to the other side of the screen or something, rather than use a branch to attack you. But I was thinking like no one would be able to jump off the branch, which would be hilarious because everyone's just so freaking ripped in that game. They would just snap the branch in half. But they could like run off the tree or something like that, or I don't know, maybe use more parts of the tree to attack you or something like that. I don't know, but it'll be cool to see them bring that from Injustice into Mortal Kombat because I think it'll be much deadlier and it'll result in a lot more random acts of violence as we finally get more gameplay out of it and we get to see them using all sorts of random weapons because I feel like they'll have actual weapons that you can pick up like when how they had the different fighting styles back in Defiance and Armageddon and Deception, I believe. So it'll be cool. I think they'll have those as actual weapons, and they might bring in weapons that are just like in Injustice. There'll be one hit and then you're done with it, and you can use it over and over because it's a specific location or whatever. So that thing keeps refilling or something like that. And it would be cool to see if they have permanent items where you can pick it up and you basically just have a weapon on you and it changes how you fight. That would be cool to see as well. But it was a cool first trailer. I'm excited to see what they come out with next. Excited to see what new characters we get. The only other person I can remember from MK4, like I said, I don't really remember much. The game is really old now, but there was of course Shinnok because he was the new big bad guy. But they also have Fujin, who is Raiden's brother. So I'd love to see him. He was actually one of my favorite characters in that game. I'd love to see him come in. He's the god of wind. That would be sweet to have him come into the game and finally get him back in. I don't know if you guys like him or not, but I thought he was a good character. But like the trailer, cool to see the action. Graphics look good. I think, like I said, I'm pretty sure that's what the game will actually look like. I don't think that was CG. The fatality they had in it might be one of Scorpion's fatalities. Honestly, it seemed fairly simple for it to be one of his fatalities, but at the same time, they probably change it up. We didn't see the whole thing. We really kind of just did like the Mortal Kombat X, and then he ripped his head off and threw the knife or threw his katana at it. But it'll probably look different in the actual game, and who knows what other stuff we'll get. But what do you guys think of the trailer, visually, sound-wise, the music? I know a lot of people didn't like the music because there was a rap song in it. I personally didn't like it too much. I just didn't really like the song, but it went with the actual action of it. But what do you guys think of the trailer? Who do you guys want to see that you might remember from Mortal Kombat 4? Or with this new story, who do you guys think might come in earlier than they did in the initial storyline? Because, of course, with the way things went, they beat Shinnok and then they met all the other characters. Now everything's just all up in the air. So who do you guys want introduced, or I guess reintroduced into this game that's either from 4 or maybe from Armageddon or Deception or whatever? Who do you guys want to see in the game, and what levels do you guys want to see? Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.